One of the advantages of diving into your Clifton Strengths or your Gallup StrengthsFinder results is that it gives you insight that you probably wouldn't have ever really thought about unless you were being really intentional about your development. In this video, we're going to discuss what Gallup calls your balconies and your basements of your Clifton Strengths talent themes. This goes beyond just knowing what your results are. Let's go deeper and discuss how to apply some of the insight that your results give you. Now that you know your top 5 or your top 10 results, you know your predominant talent themes. That is, those naturally recurring patterns of thought, feeling, and behavior that can be productively applied. But if you've seen my video on the 6 most common mistakes that people make about Clifton Strengths, you know that number 1, your results aren't your strengths, and number 2, your results aren't even what you necessarily do well. Your results simply identify the patterns of what you do naturally. But just because the test identifies your naturally recurring patterns, it doesn't necessarily mean that those patterns are being used in positive, effective, or even in constructive ways. Your natural talents are raw potential, but even that raw potential needs to be developed into strengths. That means investing time and effort to gain experience so that you can practice your skills, develop your talents, and build your knowledge base. But even if you've taken the time to invest in your talents and develop them into strengths, you still run the risk of running in autopilot mode. That is, not being mindful or not being intentional in how you're using your talents. Think about your typical day. Are you truly present and open to the possibilities in front of you, or are you simply going through the motions? Are there certain activities that you can practically do with your eyes closed? Are there certain people where you can anticipate how that conversation is going to go? Are you simply expecting what's familiar to you each day? If you answered yes to any of the last few questions, are you even really present? Or is it possible that you're running in autopilot mode, reacting instead of intentionally creating or genuinely responding to the activities, the events, the people throughout your day? I talked a little bit about this in my video on identifying your personal strengths and weaknesses. Over 10 years ago in my last career, when I was working with a coach, I had to go through a 360-degree evaluation. That's when people whom I worked with at all levels were asked to evaluate my performance and give feedback on me. That included peers, managers, teammates, superiors, clients, people in different levels through the organization that interacted with me. What surprised me about that experience is what I learned as I went through the feedback. I realized that the exact same patterns of thinking that contributed to my strengths were the exact same patterns that contributed to my weaknesses. So there's an extra dimension here. Your talent themes are actually neutral. It's not enough to gain knowledge and experience to develop them. You really need to be aware of how you're using your talents. Are you intentionally directing your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions towards strengths or towards weaknesses? Gallup uses different terms to differentiate when talent themes are being used in an optimal way, that is your balconies, or when your talent themes are being used in a way that sabotages your success, that is your basements. Each talent theme has its own balconies and basements. To make this a little easier for you to understand, I've created a downloadable resource sheet for you, so you can look up the balconies and basements for each talent theme. The link to that resource sheet is in the description below. So think about a balcony, and for those of you who are unfamiliar with this term, a balcony is a part of a house or a building on an upper level that's usually an opening to the outside. It often has a beautiful view, and it's a relaxing area where someone can spend time. It's usually something that's desirable and something that you want to share with others. The same is true for your talent theme balconies. That's when you're using your talent themes in an optimized way. That is your strengths. Using them at the right place, at the right time, and getting your desired outcomes. On the other hand, think of a basement. For those of you unfamiliar with this term, a basement is the lowest level of a house or a building. Usually the basement is underground level. It's unfinished and often used for storage. It can be dark, and because it's out of sight, it's often disorganized or even dirty. So think about those patterns that you're simply using in autopilot mode, when you're just going through the motions and you're not really being mindful as to how you're using your talents. It's possible that those patterns are leading you to your weaknesses, and you're not realizing that if you put in some effort, there's actually a flip side, that those patterns could be used differently and directed towards your strengths. To make this a little clearer, let's go through a couple of examples. Let's start out with the talent theme command. People exceptionally talented in the command talent theme have presence. They can take control of a situation and make decisions. When used in its balcony form, somebody with command can be seen as direct, clear, often charismatic, and easy to follow. But when command is used in its basement form, that same person can be seen as bossy, domineering, rude, or even stubborn. So as you can see, the talent theme itself is neutral. It's how that person develops and expresses that talent theme that determines whether it's perceived as a balcony or a basement. Now let's look at the input talent theme. People exceptionally talented in the input talent theme have a need to collect and archive. They may accumulate information, ideas, artifacts, and even relationships. In its balcony form, somebody with input can be seen as knowledgeable, a great resource, somebody with excellent memory, or somebody who collects interesting things. But on the other hand, in its basement form, somebody with input can be seen as a pack rat or a hoarder, or just somebody who has a lot of useless information. Again, the input talent theme itself is neutral. It's up to the person to be self-aware and intentional as to how they're directing their talents, whether towards balconies and strengths or towards their basements and weaknesses. And the same goes for you. As you reflect on how you're using your talent themes, are you starting to recognize moments when you're using your talents in their balcony form? Or are you starting to recognize other moments when you're using your same talents in their basement form? Can you determine what factors are influencing you or impacting you as to why you're using them as balconies versus basements? Is it those moments where you're in an environment where you're comfortable and maybe working on things that inspire you? Or is it moments when you're stressed and you're solely focused on your constraints and your limitations? Are there shifts that you can make to direct those moments when you're using your talents in your basement towards your balcony or towards your strengths? Clifton Strengths isn't just about passively knowing your results. It's about taking action based on the insight that you're learning about yourself. Balconies and basements is just one of the many topics that you can explore on learning how to apply your results. Whether you're working with a coach, taking a class, participating in a workshop, or taking an independent Clifton Strengths-based online course like my Talents in Action online course. Just to give you a taste of that further insight that Clifton Strengths reveals to you, I've created a resource for you. I mentioned this earlier. It's a resource that lists all of the balconies and basements associated with each talent theme. It's a downloadable PDF. Simply access it using the link in the description below. Remember, your talent themes, meaning your results, are neutral. It's up to you to make the effort to develop your talents and intentionally direct them towards your strengths and your balconies. I want to thank you for joining me in this topic. Let me know in the comments below, what did you learn about yourself or your talents? Are there certain balconies or basements that you discovered about yourself? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you like this video, do me a favor and hit the like button. It'll help get this video out to a broader audience and we can share this content. If you enjoyed the content and you want to learn more on how to apply your Clifton Strengths or your StrengthsFinder results, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. You can go back and check out the videos that are already there, or go ahead and watch these videos next. Don't forget to download your resource sheet on balconies and basements. I want to thank you so much for joining me in this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much.